Hi everyone, I'm Danielle Scruton and I'm here with Susan Dugan. Hi Susan.
Hi, Danielle.
And we just decided that, behind the scenes, Susan and I talk fairly regularly, and we decided we would start putting those conversations on video and recording and to share them with others in the hopes that, we're all healing together. So, in hopes that they would be helpful. So Susan is a teacher of A Course in Miracles, and she has a wonderful website called Foraysinforgiveness. .com, where she shares her journey so beautifully. She's such a good writer, such a gifted writer, about real life things that happen and how she communicates with her inner teacher. And anyways, I find it really helpful, and I encourage everyone else to check it out as well. And today we are going to talk about transcending personal need in our special relationships. And like I was saying to you, Susan, before we started recording, this is something that's been coming up for me, all the time. But in an
You're
especially,
not alone.
I don't think I am, in an especially intense way, I guess, over the past couple of weeks, and I'm realizing that I am much needier than I thought I was, and how much I judge myself for that. I feel like we're we're meant to be strong, right? When we're supposed to not need from our partners or significant others, or even like the people in our lives. But at the same time, we're also told, don't settle for less. Make sure that you're being supported. Take care of your. There's just all these mixed messages that are thrown at us, and it's so confusing. And as we know, as course students, it's set up that way. We're not meant to understand it. It's supposed to just like lead to one dead end after another. So what I've been finding is, along with this neediness, is my resistance to bringing this to the Holy Spirit. So I'm noticing in my romantic partnership that I, want certain things or expect certain things, and when those needs aren't met, I I get upset, and then I judge myself for feeling needy. So that's where I am today. Today's actually a better day. Today is like the shift is occurring, but that's where I've been the past couple of weeks. Is just sort of languishing in this, blame and a cycle of blame and on myself and on the other person. And
Right. Right. And it's funny that you started out by saying that we're kind of taught that it's almost like embarrassing
yeah,
because we're kind of taught that, we're supposed to be strong or we're not supposed to have needs. But, we're taught to pretend that we don't have needs.
yeah,
But the human condition is extremely needy. I mean, we come here because we believe that we threw God's love away. That's the whole. That's why we're here.
yeah,
And we're constantly trying to substitute for what we think we destroyed. And so we couldn't be more needy. All of us.
hmm,
And it starts from the moment that we're born. We're born as helpless infants. I mean, we set it up this way. We don't remember that part. We
right,
deliberately forgot that part. But of course we're going to be needy because because we're trying to fill ourselves, trying to fill this horrible void that that on some level we recognize is bottomless,
hmm,
and and so we're constantly trying to somehow covertly get other people to fill it for us, And then when they don't deliver on their end of the bargain, because nobody can fully deliver because the need can't really be met. We're always seeking for, the Course says, for what can't be found, where it can't be found. And so it's really such a setup, and nobody can meet. We enter into special relationships and make these covert bargains with each other to meet each other's needs, and it doesn't work. It's, Ken Wapnick used to say that it's a maladaptive solution to a non-existent problem.
Yeah.
In truth, all our needs are met within, in the undifferentiated union. You know all this, but undifferentiated union of our true nature. But that's what we're denying, and we don't believe that anymore, and we're afraid to go where we are completed. We're the mind, and so we're really stuck between. We're in this limbo of trying to get our needs met and feeling really, and then blaming ourselves for feeling judgmental when they're, because we're angry when they're not met. But then also not knowing where to turn to get them met. And so from the Course's perspective, it's always about, when we catch ourselves doing that, not to judge ourselves for it, but, to just recognize to change the purpose of it and recognize where that neediness is coming from. And, I'm mistaking what I am again. And the real relationship and the real need that we all share, and we're always going in the right direction when we see it as shared interest.
Yeah.
And our real shared interest is to learn that we have no needs outside ourselves, that that the only need that we share truly is to heal our mind and go home.
Yes.
And where we are completed, where all our needs are met. And so the need of every heart, the Course says, is really to learn this simple but not easy, because again, we're so conflicted and afraid of it, form of forgiveness. But we have, which is really just a question, what the cause of my feeling like this is, and remember that it can't be. I must be wrong if I think it's anything outside me, anything outside my mind, and try to remind ourselves that there is a quiet, peaceful, completed place within us, a teacher within us that we can turn to, and that's the relationship that the Course is always turning us back toward, because when we join with our inner teacher, Jesus, all Holy Spirit, whatever symbol you're working with, it's really just that all inclusively loving presence in our mind that knows that we're not really here, that it's not really, that the problem has already been solved. Mm-hmm. When we decide to be in relationship with that, we shift back and say, let's look at this together. Then we recognize, the need falls away. We see that it's, I was just afraid again. Yeah. That really wasn't about. And that's the holy instant. We've had those experiences that even if it's very quick, where the need falls away for a moment. It's we're outside it.
Yeah.
And we can see, all our only response to whatever our partner may be having, a real ego meltdown too, or really doing something very irritating to the personal self that we think we are, but we'll have a change, a shift in how we perceive that, to seeing that, that's the same fear that I have, and that person, is shares my need to go home, but all I have to worry about is joining with my teacher, and which is we also have within us, that everyone has within them, and if I do that, I'm going to, however I respond will change. It won't, it's not going to be punitive, I may have to do something that's, put the brakes on in some way with my kid or with my partner, and have a hard conversation even, but it won't be a harsh conversation. It won't be, it will be a very loving conversation.
Mm-hmm.
and a very, it will reflect our sameness and our shared interest, and whether it's perceived that way in the moment or not, the
Uh,
kind
yeah.
of me.
In my experience, it is though, because, I think not every time, but when you're coming from a place of love, that's felt because it is
Yeah,
coming from that common place that we all
it
share.
very often is felt. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I'm finding more and more I can't act from that place of blame because there's something that just feels wrong about it. And while I'm making peace with the fact that I may wrestle with it longer than I would like to, like, and I might stay in that place of blame longer than I would like to. I know enough, I have felt enough of that loving presence that I'm not going to make any moves from there. I'm not going to make any big decisions.
You don't trust the ego as much as
I
you used to,
don't. Yeah, I
which
don't.
is exactly right. You're
Yeah.
you're you're having an experience of comparing when you've chosen the ego with
Yeah.
when we've chosen, the right mind, and we know there's a markedly different quality to the experience, and even if we're momentarily or temporarily, um, happy when we get our need met in form or in, as or we're able to be right in a
Yeah.
conversation, or
Hmm.
have someone comply with the way we want them to
Yeah.
to behave or whatever. Even when that happens, we there's something off, as you're saying. If we've been manipulative to try to make that happen,
Yeah.
and it doesn't, and it for me it feels sort of hypocritical at this point. It's
Yeah.
like I know this isn't, and it's increasingly uncomfortable. It's
Hmm.
it's painful
Yeah.
often.
Yeah.
It feels like, wow, there's a cost. There's a
Yeah.
cost to this bargaining that we do, and
Hmm.
we begin to feel that the cost. We haven't owned it before because we've been so good at just, and so mindlessly occupied with trying to with our giving to get, as the course says,
Yeah.
and just trying to, so sort of frantically searching to try to fill this emptiness that we
Hmm.
feel, and or to get rid of the guilt that we feel, and that's what special relationships are all about too. And the course says that, they're about trading off guilt. They're
Right.
not pretty, from that perspective. I mean, until we change the purpose, they're really not.
Hmm.
um, and so, and we're learning the only way that we can begin to really make our way up the ladder that separation, seemed to lead us down, is to begin to experience the pain of what we're doing. And Jesus is constantly getting us to look at it, to feel it, you know? So we have that contrast, but look, we have it. But the good news is, if when you choose to make me the focus of your relationships, and put me, have me as your partner in every relationship, then you're going to, the purpose of them is going to change,
Yeah.
and that will lead to a shift in your experience that will be very, very nice.
Yeah, and I found great benefit and we've talked about this many times before, but the more I do it, the better it gets, and the quicker I come back to love. I vent to Jesus. So anything that I would say to you or to my best friend or to my boyfriend, I say to Jesus, like, this person pissed me off. They did
Right.
X, Y, and Z, and that means that they're guilty, and this is why. And and I know, because of the context of that relationship with the Holy Spirit, with Jesus, I know that he knows that it's all meaningless, it's all just BS.
Of course, yeah.
But it's like, it's like that part of me has to be heard in that moment, and I have to honor that this is what's up for me in the moment, and
Right.
And I always end it with, I'm willing to see this differently, because it's painful to believe this. All this stuff that I'm spewing right now, it is painful to believe this. I want to see this person as my brother, as my sister. I don't want to feel this way anymore. But first I need to tell you. First I need to tell you how I feel,
Well, I do that too, because I write about
yes,
that all the
you
time.
Do. Yeah.
But I think that's exactly what Jesus is asking us to be in an intimate, honest relationship with him.
Yeah.
And as our teacher, as our real mentor. And so, he says, bring it, bring me any darkness that he can take anything. I've called him really awful names. I get very angry with him too, because, there's times when we want, and of course he isn't a person, but we may experience him that way at times, and it might be helpful to do so as long as we believe we're bodies, and so I think that he wants us to bring to he says in many places in the Course, there's nothing too shameful. Don't keep anything to solve by yourself, and there's, we don't think that you have to keep secrets from me, because, he knows that we're afraid. He knows that we're angry. He knows that we're, that we're constantly anxious, and he's not asking us to try to appear, more spiritual than we are. He knows we're not. He knows spiritual
that is a load of crap.
Babies, infants. So it's okay, and by that honesty that we have, and having those real conversations with him, which are really just monologues, because he never agrees with us, but he listens, right?
Yes.
And as you say, what happens is, by the end of it, we see differently. Yes. Something transpires in having, reporting it as we see it to that presence that sees it differently.
Yeah.
There's some sort of alchemy that happens where the darkness, does go in his light. And it doesn't have the power anymore. We see that, we experience that it doesn't have the power.
Yes. And I liken it to anyone who's ever done the work with Byron Katie. I find the experience very similar. And Byron Katie's work is all about questioning our beliefs, questioning our thoughts, and turning them around. Why I love the Course so much, I love both, but why I love the Course so much is that experience with that loving presence is just so much more intimate when, I guess I feel more taken care of, because that's so much of what I feel like I'm missing in the world is that sense of being safe and taken care of and loved unconditionally. And so having that imaginary Jesus, that loving presence to go to, and then the feeling, like you said, that comes from the alchemy of this intimate relationship of bringing these grievances for the purpose of healing is just miraculous.
It is. And it's usually, and you know how much we lighten up through it too.
Yes.
I mean, we end up smiling at the end of that process and laughing often.
Yeah.
And Jesus is always laughing,
Yes.
Jesus, he didn't take the tiny mad idea of separation seriously.
That's right.
And the other thing is just, what you were saying about that, feeling that comfort and I loved with the Course very early on, finally having that sense that had never had in my life. I've always felt, and I think most of us feel, and that's part of the human condition too, of believing that we're separate, that I was always alone. No one could really solve the loneliness within me. And the Course, now we have this, once you really connect with that loving presence in our mind, which is really ourselves, we're growing up through this process to eventually become that presence. Mm-hmm. But until we do, the experience is of being completely loved, as you're saying, unconditionally loved and supported. He's never judging us. There's no hurry. He doesn't
Yeah.
speak the way we do. It's
Yeah.
not linear. And he knows we're afraid. He respects our fear. He doesn't share it, but he respects it.
Mm-hmm.
He's always gentle. And, he tells us, I am as close to you. I'm so close to you, we cannot fail.
Yeah.
Told we're so heavily supported in this course, because in truth, we're there.
Yes.
We all made it home.
Yes.
Can't flunk this thing.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's a good point that you made, though, that there's no rush, because I think a lot of us, when we start on this spiritual journey, we just become so hungry for it, and we want it, whatever it is, enlightenment.
So enthusiastic, and
we want it to happen as soon as possible, and yet there is, Ken Wapnick talks about this all the time. And just for those of you who don't know, Ken Wapnick was a teacher of the course. In fact, he helped with the editing of the course, not the transcribing, but the editing of the course, and taught it for many, many years afterwards. But anyways, he talks about how much guilt there is, like how many layers, and how it's and yes, we can be home in an instant. We can remember that love in an instant, but in practice, it takes time.
Yes, it does. And I think we need to respect that in ourselves. I mean, it's the humility that is required for this course is really the patience with yourself, because as you say, it goes so much deeper, the guilt, than we're aware of, and the fear. There's so many layers to this, and so we are going to be, we're not aware at all of the part of us that's fighting like hell not to do this course. It doesn't want to go anywhere near the mind, and always wants to bring it back into the world, and always wants to make it about the body and the specialness and the spiritual specialness and all of that. We're not, it's unconscious. So we have to take it, it's counterproductive, really, to try to rush through this, because that's the ego joining the journey, and all we have to do is be really present with right now. How am I feeling right now? And you and I have talked about this a lot. Our feelings tell us which teacher we've chosen, and we're feeling anything but loving and kind, and also whether or not we're even if we're feeling kind towards someone, if we're at the same time we're excluding someone else or making some sort of hierarchy out of it, then the ego is very involved again. So we have to just really go very slowly with this, and gently, and not, we can't go any faster than our fear will allow, and we have to respect that there is fear that's unconscious there. And just because, we're not aware of it, it's there.
And I feel like that gentle acceptance of where we are makes the experience of it that much smoother. So while it may not go faster in time, the experience of it makes it feel like it's faster.
Yes, and I think it actually does accelerate it, because again, when we're fighting it or trying to manage it ourselves with the ego, all we're doing is sort of confusing ourselves that we're further along than we think we are, which means we're still projecting like crazy, We're not paying attention anymore.
I love that, because that we're further along than we think we are, because I was having this beautiful conversation with a friend of mine who's dabbled with the course, but has never fully committed to it for whatever reasons of her own, and she was saying, I completely lost my train of thought now. That we're further along than we think we are. I don't remember what I was going to say.
You're having a conversation with this friend, but no. It'll come back.
Completely. If it comes back, I'll share it. But I was kind of getting lost in what in it. But
that happens, yeah.
But we, we do. We think we're further along than That we are. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Okay, so she said something along the lines of, there's a quote from someone that basically says, "You think you're enlightened? Go and spend time with your family to see how really enlightened you are." Because those are the
Right.
people who push your buttons, and
That's very true. Yes.
that's where the learning is. Like you can go close yourself off in a mountain somewhere and maybe not have as many lessons, but go home with your family,
Right.
and it's like,
And I mean, I think in terms of the enlightened idea, if people who are enlightened wouldn't even see it as enlightened, I
yeah,
mean, it's not a big deal. It's our natural state.
that's
So
right.
so and certainly wouldn't make any draw any attention to it because that would be a very separating and unkind thing to do.
Yeah,
So, you know, I mean, and we don't need to know about our progress. It's really that very present, right now. And as you said, our family, it's the course is all about practicing this in the context of our relationships because that's our most difficult classroom, as Ken says.
yes,
That's where we really, all of our neediness comes out, all of our judgments come out, our expectations, our fear, our,
yeah,
our our special love. I mean,
yeah,
I know we've talked a lot about our kids and
yes,
all the fears we have for our kids and I mean, I've talked and written a lot about my daughter and, this, and now she's like left the nest and like really now left the nest and is like 24 years old and, living in Seattle and far away. And and there's times when I just miss her so much and I just feel this neediness and,
yes,
but it's not really kind to in any way do anything with that except to really look at it with my inner teacher,
yeah,
and and allow it to be again change the purpose of it to seeing that really that neediness is not where I think it is, and
yeah.
and isn't really it's misplaced, it's misplaced, and yeah,
That's when that question, what is this for? What is this
right,
for? If you're looking at anything, any relationship in your life, and the answer isn't, this is for healing, or then you need to take it to Jesus. I
right,
guess.
right, because the purpose of everything really needs to be. I mean, if you're really if the course is your path, and there's many, it doesn't have to be your path, but
Yeah,
this happens to be your path. It's a path. It does claim to be an accelerated path, although you know Jesus sees time very differently than we do. He's
yes,
still talking thousands of years,
yes,
most of the time, but and that's nothing to him. So, but if this is your path, it does require paying attention and a lot of it doesn't require effort, but it requires vigilance,
and
and
yeah, and honesty.
honesty, great honesty, and
Yeah,
great self-awareness,
yeah,
or at least the intention of self-awareness and the working with our inner teacher that, I really do want to learn the true meaning of forgiveness in all circumstances,
hmm,
with those that I consider victims and with those that I consider victimizers. And
yeah,
I want to be able to, see this as everyone and everything as you do. And if we don't start our mornings with that as our intention, and try to check in throughout the day, we can read the course all we want and quote it and talk about it, but it's not going to change the quality of our experience or make us more loving. It's not.
no, no, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that commitment to being honest, I think it it's necessary, but it's okay if it's not coming to you right away, because we're so conditioned
It's
to,
practice. It's just practice.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're so conditioned to portray things a certain way, and that happiness is supposed to look a certain way, and relationships are supposed to look a certain way, and and all the while we're feeling stuff underneath what everything looks like. And
Right.
when we can begin to let go of our fear, to be present with those feelings, be honest about those feelings, and
right.
bring that to the Holy Spirit, I mean, you really start to see how insane this world is, how unloving this world is,
And how unloving I am.
and how unloving we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, we
how,
see it
yeah,
in begin to see it in ourselves, and we begin
yeah,
over time not to judge ourselves for it.
yeah,
Just see, well, the ego is 100% hate. When I'm in that state, I am 100% hate.
and I think, that's where that feeling that so many people, they would have different words to describe it, but there are times when we all feel like an alien in this world. And
Oh, yeah.
it's because you're not of this world. This world is made up on a mistake, was
Right.
made because of a mistaken thought. And it's okay to feel like an alien here, because this isn't who you are. And that's what the purpose of this, everything in your life, that's the purpose, is to remember this isn't your home.
Right.
And
That's lesson 182 about
that's
that.
right.
The alien.
Yeah.
Yeah. I-
And it's, you were gently brought back,
yeah.
and we talk about this all the time, how gentle this course really is, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes, because our resistance is so fierce at times.
Right. Right.
But the more that you practice, the more gentle and subtle. We also talk about that a lot too, about how subtle the miracle is. But the more you practice it, the more you can't really do anything else. Like, we still try. I still try. I mean, I spent 2 weeks these past 2 weeks trying. I mean,
Trying other ways. Yeah.
but witnessing myself trying, witnessing myself struggling to try to make things work in this world, and try to make people different than they are, without accepting them, without accepting people without judging them, is that's the work of the Holy Spirit. Danielle can't do it.
No, you can't. We can't do it for ourselves.
I
We
can't
can't,
do it. No,
and it won't work when we
it
try
won't
to.
work.
We deceive ourselves a lot
Yeah,
that we're doing it, and we're not, and we know by how we're feeling. But
yeah,
I think one of the points that you were sort of starting to make there too was, and we talk about a lot, is just that we have to allow ourselves to feel
yeah,
what we're feeling, and I that's been very powerful for me especially over the last year or two, because I, even as, although I was practicing the course and trying to work with this, like, a lot of the self-judgment was coming from my unwillingness to sort of stay with how I was feeling, how unhappy I was,
mm-hmm.
how anxious I was, or to judge it, and to try to do something, and try to run away from it, or not, and hide it from Jesus, maybe, I don't know, but the what I've been working with more in the last, more recently, was really just allowing myself to be with the feelings, and with that frightened child from lesson 182 that's within all of us, that feels like such an alien here, and nobody gets me, and all the, all that fear, that terrible loneliness that comes up.
Yeah.
For all of us,
Yeah.
that's really that's that wound within all of us, but we have it confused where it's coming from, but first you have to be able to feel it, and allow yourself to feel it with Jesus somewhere in that, beside you, and that loving presence beside you, and sort of comfort that frightened child, and allow, imagine yourself in whatever way is meaningful to you, to comforting or putting your arms around that child like we would comfort our kids, and that somehow in that process of doing that, we discover that the feelings don't have the power, the ego doesn't have the power we thought it did. We thought it was this devastating confrontation with what we did, with the guilt, yes, below it all. And we learn by allowing ourselves to feel it, but not alone, but with, holding Jesus's hand, with Jesus beside us, with bringing that loving comfort to it, and it helps me to use the image of me as a child, mm-hmm. that or somehow, changes it, and really it is seeing that this guilt doesn't have the power that we thought it did, because it's not real. But we need to like feel that, experience it, and that's part of this process, I think. As we go deeper with this, of letting the guilt go.
Yes. And so I think, that image is so powerful of just recognizing that neediness, recognizing that need that we feel, and then the guilt that accompanies it, for being needy, bringing that whole mess to
Right.
Jesus, and then the whole mess, and then having the experience of it just falling away. Like you said, it didn't have the power that you thought it did.
Right.
And that in and of itself, for our feelings to lose their power and for us to be at peace, content, and happy in spite of it,
right.
in spite of our feelings that we hold so tightly to. And you and I are both writers. So feelings it's everything.
It's like that old bad song about feelings. Bill Murray and doing that. That's probably predated you, but doing the lounge, singers. Yeah, it's the ego's, lounge lizard kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, exactly.
But so that can be the experience of that falling away, and that our feelings don't have this power over us that we thought that they did. I mean, it's everything. It's everything.
We can survive it. We did survive it. We survived the tiny mad idea. It doesn't require punishment. It doesn't require fixing or changing. It's forgiven.
Right.
And somehow I think for me, experiencing that more viscerally has been really like helpful, because it is really, it helps me trust more that I don't, maybe I'm not the home of evil, darkness, and sin, and not only do you survive it, but you can laugh at it.
Yeah.
You can really laugh at it.
Yeah.
And so, how wonderful that is, right?
Yes. To be able to laugh when you've been taking everything so seriously.
Yeah. And you didn't go poof either. We're just here. It's like, if I step into the light, I'm going to disappear. And, this is a gentle course. We're not, but at the other side of that, Lesson 70 talks about the clouds of guilt that we go through, and there's other parts of the course where he uses that analogy, and he says there's no way to the other side but going through those clouds of guilt, within which are all our special relationships and everything we value, right?
Yeah.
But he says you can imagine taking my hand as you go through this very scary darkness. And that I assure you, I forget what the exact wording is, but I assure you that will not be there'll be no idle fantasy, something like that. And so we can, the holy instant is when we have that moment in which we have that shift, and that's for a moment we're outside the clouds with Jesus, and we're on the other side, and we survived it.
Yeah,
we didn't go poof. We're lighter. There's no problem. There's, we feel loving toward ourselves and others and every other.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no need.
Yeah.
And so, that's what we have along the way. We have those shifts, and more we'll be willing as our trust develops to spend more time there,
Yeah. I think that's beautiful, and it's a perfect place to end.
Yeah, can I do one thing before we do?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to recommend Ken Wapnick's CD set called Intimacy, Love Without Needs.
Yes.
And it's really, really good, and really talks about this whole subject of neediness in our special relationships, and really learning that our only need is to turn to the true relationship with our teacher within, and that's how we transcend our needs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I echo that recommendation. It was I listened to it over and over again when my marriage was ending, and it was so
It's
helpful.
wonderful. It's really
And
wonderful. Yeah.
you can download it on MP3 and listen to it on your iPad as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's the
highly recommend.
Foundation for A Course in Miracles website. They have a bookstore. So,
Yes,
yeah.
facim.org, I believe. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So Foundation for a Course in Miracles. So yeah,
Yeah.
check it out for sure. All right. Thanks so much, Susan.
Thank
We'll
you.
do
It's
this
always
again soon, right?
okay. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.